Good afternoon. I want to thank Legal Services of New Jersey, particularly my friends on its staff, such as Mary McManus-Smith and Jay Rajaraman. I appreciate the introduction. I'm not sure if I'm worthy of it. Nonetheless, I appreciate you inviting me to speak to you today and on this happy occasion. On behalf of my fellow judges who serve in the family part and who handle child welfare cases, I am both honored and humbled to be with you today to celebrate such an important milestone as to the families that are here in your lives and the lives of your children, and that is the reunification of your families. I also offer my congratulations today to the honorees who are going to be honored later on, Jennifer Cunningham and Nada Saloom. Their work exemplifies how far in advance our child welfare system has come in New Jersey when both a representative of the Division of Child Protection and Permanency and a member of the Office of the Public Defender are honored for their work in reunifying families. So once again, congratulations. But now I want to return to you, to the families that we honor here today, and to those who are present and those who will view this video later. The goal of reunification, as envisioned by the American Bar Association, is for us as a nation to celebrate family and community. Without the former, we cannot have the latter. And so in preparing to speak to you today, I reflected on what family means to me and what makes up its fundamental building block, namely the parent-child relationship, and what makes that relationship so unique and so important. I must confess, however, that I jumped on LSNJ's website, where you can find a video of the last 3 years of keynote addresses. Those speeches were given by judges for whom I have a deep and abiding affection and respect. I watched their speeches in part for that reason, but also to make sure that I didn't poach from them. In listening to their speeches, I discovered that the judges sought inspiration from higher authorities. One quoted poetry, one quoted Marvin Gaye, and another quoted Dr. Seuss. So, being sappy myself, I apologize ahead of time for my unjudge-like enthusiasm and emotion today, but I begin by quoting from my higher authority, Bill Murray, who in one of my favorite movies, Lost in Translation, tried to explain his character's relationship to his children. He said the following about having children: "Your life as you know it is gone, never to return, but they learn to walk and they learn how to talk, and you want to be with them, and they turn out to be the most delightful people that you will ever meet in your life." Wiser words could not have been spoken in my view. For today, in my view, just as much a celebration of you, our parents, who have come back from the abyss, but also a celebration of you, our children, who did not give up on your parents, and who through your actions, words, patience, affection, or merely just being, have served as the beacon, as the light at the end of the tunnel, as the ray of hope to guide your parents home to you. It is not easy to identify why or how the relationship of family, particularly that of parent and child, became so central to who we are as people. Indeed, I think we can agree that one can derive love from a stranger, some say even a pet, but the parent-child relationship is special. From a parent's perspective, I believe it is born of both an innate curiosity to see yourself in someone else, and also to see a better version of yourself. You don't need a college degree or an education, or even a license to parent. It is innate to want to love and to care for your child. It's just a matter of having the opportunity to do so. I say this because parents who themselves were victims of abuse or neglect and deprived of a childhood, many of whom appear in our courtrooms and find themselves involved in the child welfare system as children and adults, have in them, deep down, the desire and the ability to love their children because it comes from a desire to want to experience love themselves. That love manifests itself not just in affection. It manifests itself in the quiet moments and unspoken interactions between a parent and a child. When a child smiles the same way you do, or pushes her hair to the side the same way your mother did, or laughs in the same way his father does. It comes in the moments that are quieter still, when in putting a child to bed, you discover that he has the same shaped toes as you do, or when watching your daughter run onto a soccer field, you observe the same gait and step as yours. Talk offline to any judge or caseworker or any professional who spent time with a family on any given case, and among the first things that they will remember about a family is not what someone said or did in court, but how, when observed together, the familial relationship between parent and child, or the parent and child and grandparent, manifested itself in a physical resemblance or a behavioral similarity. Fundamentally, that is where a bond comes from. As one of my heroes, retired New Jersey Supreme Court Justice Virginia Long said in VC versus MJB, an opinion she wrote about parenting and family, a bond is not the result of the sexual orientation of the adults or of their marital status. It does not arise solely from biology or legal adoption. Rather, it is born out of the daily toil parents engage in to keep their children healthy and safe from harm, out of love and attention provided to the children, and out of the unconditional regard returned by the children to the parental figures. When the bond exists, the parent and children become a family, an entity greater than the sum of its parts. In VC versus MJB, Justice Long quoted from my other heroes, the United States Supreme Court, which in a decision decades prior explained what family is and why it's so important to our survival as a human race. The Supreme Court said, "The importance of the familial relationship to the individuals involved and to the society stems from the emotional attachments that derive from the intimacy of daily association and from the role it plays in promoting a way of life through the instruction of children as well as from the fact of blood relationship." So, for me at least, reunification is really about the opportunity to have both the burden and the privilege of parenthood. Society cannot exist without the family, and the family cannot exist without a parent. And so, what you did today, to the families that are here and those that will later watch this video, what you did today to achieve today's success was not just for you. It was not just for your kids, it was for us too. And today, we must recognize the mountains that you have climbed. If you fought an addiction, domestic violence, or the demons of a past suffered at someone else's hand, never ever let anyone define you by that alone. You are a parent first and foremost, and that is how your children view you and how you must work to be viewed by others. You see, a parent with a drug problem is not a drug addict who happens to be a parent. A parent with a criminal history is not just a criminal. A parent who has a mental health problem is not solely the personification of her diagnosis. These are things that all of us who are involved in the child welfare system must constantly remind ourselves of, because it's easy for us to forget and to get lost as well. Although during your case, I am sure that there were many times that you thought the opposite. No one goes to medical school or obtains a degree in social work or psychology or attends law school to become a lawyer and eventually a judge with the sole purpose of ending the relationship between a parent and a child and destroying a family. To be sure, our system is an imperfect one. Judges, lawyers, caseworkers, mental health professionals, CASA workers, CPR members pride themselves on protecting children from abuse and neglect, and they deserve our thanks for that. But as we are reminded on days such as today, that goal should not be to a parent's exclusion if we are truly to be successful. As a child welfare system, we are ourselves not adversaries, but a family. And our family has begun to change for the better. In my view, we have begun to turn a corner and to view the matter of visitation as a serious means of healing parents and children and as a path away from the termination of parental rights. Although it is important to invest resources in all parts of the child welfare system, I suggest to you that visitation is a substantially underfunded mandate. And that mandate doesn't fall just on the division, it falls on all of us. That if properly funded, stands to be one of the best ways to keep a family together in the child welfare process. If you think about it, visitation can have a powerful impact on a parent's desire to be with his or her children for the reasons Bill Murray and the Supreme Court stated. And because children want to be with loving parents, they are incredibly adept at using a word or even a glance to guilt trip a parent who has been absent to spend more time with them. Any working parent will attest to that fact. And so, We have to invest in visitation so that parents are not discouraged, and a child's disappointment at not seeing a parent who is on the mend and ready to see them does not cause them to hate them for it. True, we have a long way to go before a lack of resources can be ruled out as a reason why visitation has not occurred. Child welfare stakeholders, with the court at its lead, are demanding meaningful contact and visitation, not only because it's New Jersey public policy, but because without it, we have no hope of positively resolving our cases. This past year, I had the privilege of witnessing the great strides that all stakeholders in our system collaboratively worked on for the betterment of families. I had the privilege of serving on committees appointed by the Supreme Court under its direct supervision and the supervision of the acting director of the administrative office of the courts, Judge Glenn Grant. This year, the Supreme Court Family Practice Committee adopted a rule assuring that children placed by the Division of Child Protection and Permanency outside of their homes are monitored by the court to assure a court record of the child's placement so that nothing slips between the cracks. The Children in Court Improvement Committee created a statewide dual status protocol requiring all judges to have notice of and to then monitor children who have an active juvenile case and who are also involved in a child welfare case in order to assure a positive, but more importantly, consistent outcome for both parent and child in each case. The Children in Court Improvement Committee adopted a statewide protocol designed to assure that youth participate in their own case by coming to court. This is so critical, not just from the perspective of having input from a child and understanding his or her desires for visitation and life in general, but this protocol is the proverbial lifeline from the abyss that the child throws to the parent that I spoke about earlier. The encouragement that a parent might need to change things for the better because by merely glimpsing his child in court or hearing the child speak her desires for the future is powerful beyond measure. And a father might also see a future in which he too could participate by having a child come to court. The Children in Court Improvement Committee also adopted a visitation bench card to teach lawyers and judges to assure parents in child welfare cases visitation with their children. The bench card was created not just to assure some visitation, but to remind judges and lawyers that visitation should be meaningful and to strain every effort to make it so. With respect to these achievements that have now been rolled out across the state, I want to pause here and recognize those child welfare stakeholders outside of the court who not only work collaboratively but diligently and honestly to achieve results in our rulemaking process and in our cases for children and parents. In my view, your work is harder than judges. While we judges interact with a parent's successes and failures in what are fleeting court appearances, you must deal with the ups and downs in far greater measure. Your spine is as strong as your skill. And today's success is yours too. Having done that, I return to you, our children and families, and our children and parents and our families. You have had the courage to do good for yourselves. You have taught us not to make negative assumptions about others, particularly those who have endured, as you have, hard times. Because of you, those of us you have touched are not so quick to draw negative conclusions about people whose condition is different from our own. Because of you, your children are now quick to smile when asked if they have a daddy or a mommy. Because of you, those of us who work in the child welfare family appreciate that which we might have taken for granted in our own families when we go home every night. You have written on our hearts. You have made us a part of your family. We are vested in you. Work hard to keep it that way. Your children are watching and learning from it. Thank you and congratulations.